This is the Lyra 101 refractor telescope f11. It's a very long tube telescope. It has very good dual speed focuser, superb, and CNC made tube rings, and view shield is this long. When it comes back up to here. And when you look at the lens, this is the lens, you can see it's achromatic, but excellent views of the moon, and I've been able to see some globular clusters with this also. And it is very similar to the Lyra, the star wave, ultra star wave telescope, red one, which I have. I will compare them one day, so one side by side, also showing you how they look. I'm using the Astro-Physics Everbright 2-inch diagonal. I can use a straight through with some extension tubes. At the moment I just fancy doing this. It's a 32mm eyepiece. It's a Plössl, unnamed, unbranded Chinese, and I found it is as good as any other eyepiece that you can get. I compared it with the Helios 21, and I think they were equal on Andromeda Galaxy, this eyepiece and the Helios 21. And I'm going to use this to observe the moon and Jupiter, which are close together in the sky. Okay, I'm using the SVBony 3 to 8mm zoom eyepiece and this Lyra 101, and I can say that the image is very good of the. I'm looking at the Jupiter. It's just inferior to the ED 120, Skywatcher ED 120, but at the level and the clarity of what you see, the EVO Star 90 slightly better. At the same time, the balance of it, because it's a tube which has no conical shape, is very well balanced. When you change focus or go back and forth, really stays at the focus, doesn't go the telescope don't go up or down. With the ED 120, because it's very heavy, a slightest change in the focus will actually take it a little bit out of balance, and then you will have drift upward and downward due to the mount. Maybe have a little bit lag also. And but this one, no, it doesn't have it doesn't pose such a problem. Jupiter, I've pumped it up to 3.5mm. It deteriorates a little bit when 3.5mm, but you can see what you could see with the 8mm up to 5mm bigger. You can see details on the belts. Belts are visible, but details on the belts, knots and festoons, you can see with this also, but not at the level that you expect when you use the Skywatcher 120 ED. But on its own is great. You see a slight chromatic aberration. In the ED 120, you don't see any chromatic aberration at all. Okay, I can say the disk of the Jupiter is laser sharp, very clear. I'm using the setting for 8mm, and really 8mm is really good. It's a sweet spot for observing with most of the refractors that I've seen, and this is not also exception. Very good sharp image. You can see lots of detail on the face of the Jupiter, and because you can rotate actually the focuser with this, is also good for photography, astrophotography, anything like that. But probably this is one of the best focusers and focus and back focuser that I have seen. The numbers are also here. It's very well built, robust, amazing, but it shines when you observe the moon with that. I'm going now to do observing the moon. Probably some of the sharpest views of the moon with this 32mm eyepiece, unbranded. and Lyra 101. It just reminds me of how nice it was when I was using it from inside a windowsill. Now I'm using the Nirvana 16mm Helios Skywatcher Nirvana 16mm. One of the easiest and sharpest eyepieces I've ever seen. It's an 82-degree eyepiece, so quite brilliant eyepiece. The sharpness of it is amazing. Look at the details. Let me just zoom on this one part. Also easy for me to hold it against the screen, much easier. So I changed it now to a standard Leica. In the setting of this mobile phone camera is a Huawei, so you can see it actually without much those red and other colors. That was all because of the camera. It was the wrong setting. I'm tapping to focus and take some pictures at the same time. So now I just tapped on the bright side, so it gets a little bit darker. You can see details better. It's better to tap it on where the highlands are, so they're brighter, and when it adjusts for those areas, the dark areas really shine and gets clear. Amazing. Probably one of the sharpest views of the moon I've seen is with this telescope and with the Nirvana 7mm eyepiece. Amazing views. Seven millimeter Nirvana. I think the star diagonal needs cleaning. That's one of the reasons I don't like to use the star diagonals. People search on this dark side of the moon, now that is an image, for flash of the impacts of meteoroids on the moon. And they have found quite a few. Japanese astronomers are very good at it. You can see the dark shadow of the moon, dark part, the night side of the moon. I don't think any camera can do justice to what you see visually with the telescope, this telescope, or any telescope actually. So these are some still images, and I've tried to some of them a little bit enhanced on the mobile phone with just the app of the camera. And you can see a lot of details, for example, Helios and the Mare Serenitatis, Helios at the center, Mare Serenitatis here, to the top part of the center. Here again at the lower part, the same Mare Serenitatis, and a lot of craters. You can see the lunar V to the top of the middle. Here you can see in the left corner. Here you can see in the top part of the image, lunar V. Helios again visible. This is a feature which reminds me of a coffee bean whenever I look at it. It's a volcanic feature, and I have some thoughts about that. I must publish a paper about this. This is a very interesting feature which I have not seen anybody covering it or anything published about this. So let me just work on that. And beside that, the image quality is amazing. When you enhance it a little bit, gets slightly closer to what you see visually. Visually is yet more appealing and more details you can see with any eyepiece, you know. All the eyepieces, modern eyepieces, work perfect with the camera, especially with this telescope or any telescope, especially eyepieces like the SVBony 328 millimeter, any Plössl or any of the, you know, BSD star guider. I use also Takahashi LE 7.5 millimeter. I use the Nirvana 4, 7, and 16 millimeter. For example, this one I think is 16 millimeter Nirvana. It's amazing. The details we can see, of course, are much more. And there is not much chromatic aberration actually when you're looking at the moon. But the camera, the angle of the camera against the top of the eyepiece creates some chromatic aberration, blue fringing, for example. You don't see that visually. And like this one, look, it's very clear. I don't see any purple fringing. But anyway, this is a nice experience. It was just a little bit cold, so I just tried to come in and leave it for another night when it is a little bit less cold. What a beautiful night to have with this refractor telescope.